come and speak at Fountain Street Church. Can you imagine him going to Thomas Road Baptist Church in Roanoke, Virginia these days? Or maybe down to Joel Osteen's church? And I don't think so. Like I said, sometimes time seems to move backwards. But Alfred Wishart was no religious naturalist. There is a plaque out there in the tower room that commemorates his ministry and talks about him preaching Christ and him crucified. He exemplified that tension, that desire, that urge to bring both the Christian and religious impulse together with realism, to find the place that contains them both. 50 years after that, in 1969, we were at the top of the arc being created by Duncan Littlefair, who by then had severed ties to the Baptists altogether. We both agreed we weren't. And though reverent to the Christian world in which he lived and in which we lived, surrounded by it, in fact, he and Fountain Street Church embodied a kind of openness that was almost unimaginable before. And yet it was still true to that biblical utterance that started the whole movement. You shall know the truth, and the truth will make you free. It's now 50 years after that moment, and not only has Duncan gone, the world has changed again, and the belief that we can know the truth is now in doubt from left to right. We all now have our own truths. In fact, we all now have our own facts, and we say that my facts are more true than your facts. And maybe it's our own blessed fault. We stood up for doubt against blind faith, but sometimes people means that you should believe in nothing and that doubting everything is the answer. And I'm not sure that's true, but when you lift up doubt, you also give rise to cynicism. We said that each of us as individuals have a sovereign right to our own point of view, and we do, and yet sometimes we forget that a point of view is not a fact, it's an opinion, and it still must be tested and proven in the larger context of reality. What I'm learning from that story is that the liberation of the mind is ever incomplete. Like science, it is never done, it is never finished, it is never entire. It leads on and on and on, as our last hymn will say, to a star of truth, toward which one can go, but at which one can never arrive. The sort of faith we practice is hard. Having company helps. And that's why we're a church. We could all go out there along our path chasing our own star all the time, but it's lonesome, friends, and you know that. If it weren't lonesome, you would not be here, would you? As a mentor of mine said it once, the liberal church is a pilgrim church on an adventure of the Spirit. We are people connected by being on the pilgrim path that is the search for the next piece of the truth, the next wider circle, the next deeper understanding. In this respect, we are like Israel in the wilderness, heading toward a place we hope exists, a promised land, but not sure exactly how to get there. I mentioned this is the end of the Torah cycle, and they'll start it all over again, reiterating and replaying the journey of Moses and Israel in the wilderness. For us, though, whoever is on the pilgrim journey, going toward the promised land of truth and freedom, is part of our religious community, whether they know it or not. We're not connected by race or nation. We're not connected by creed or language or gender or belief, but by being on the path. This pilgrim way is what separates us from other religions. For Orthodox Christians, for example, the point is to stand firm. How many of you grew up with that hymn that says, "On Jesus Christ this rock I stand, all other ground is shifting sand"? Long ago in the last century, an Orthodox fellow came up to one of our religious liberal cousins in another state and said, "Where do you stand?" And the man answered, "We don't. We move." The liberal religious vision is one of a journey, hearkening back to when Christians were called people of the way, of a path, of a journey. We don't stand, we press on. My walk across England was a pilgrimage. Every day I was alone for hours with only nature and my own thoughts. But my outward physical journey was an inward spiritual journey about which I'll say more in the future. But the key thing I rediscovered was my pilgrim soul. Each day as I walked, I found myself calmer, more composed, more whole. I was doing what I was intended to do, not the physical walk, but to keep moving, thinking, pressing on. Not until that happened did I realize how much I had missed it, lost it. Have you ever felt you've been lost and fallen off the way? I did. And so when I got home, I decided I've got to remember that feeling. I've got to remember how real I felt, how honest, how true. And one of the things that happened was, since I was out there alone and I wasn't kissing anybody, I didn't shave. So I'm going to keep my whiskers scruffy as they are. Because when I touch them or see them, I remember I'm out there on the moor in the heath, putting one foot in front of the other. Remembering our pilgrim heart is my message this morning. Because like me, we can forget this calling and be led off the path. Here is where L. Frank Baum has some good advice for us. We can be lured like the scarecrow was by shiny fruit on the side of the road. Things that make us feel good like grandeur or wealth or power. And these are not bad things, but if they take you off the road, they are not the thing to do. We can be frightened when the path gets dark and gloomy and feel we are outnumbered and we're not making progress. And like the cowardly lion, we might under our breath say, I do believe in spooks, and turn around and go back. Or we can be stiffened by the rust of habit and tradition, as all of us can, and find ourselves stuck in one place. To be a pilgrim faith and a pilgrim church requires a commitment to put one foot in front of the other, no matter how steep the hill, how charming the view, how cold the hands, how wet the feet, how dark the sky, and how uncertain the path. We press on. Now, I could tell you about how this all connects with our annual campaign, and it does. But I've used too much of your time. I can tell you how we can press on. This hour is part of it. Here is where we renew our resolve to keep at it. We find our friends, the ones we have found on the way, our fellow pilgrims. They give us courage. And we have to believe that the journey is worth it. Because after all, we've come this far. Can we give up now? Yes, we liberals, we famously skeptical, cynical liberals, we believe in something without knowing for sure. We believe that it's worth trying to find out more, trying to get closer to the star. It's worth knowing who we are a little more tomorrow than we do today. It's worth not knowing more so that we can find out more, just because we believe it's worth it. And I believed it was worth it when every day my feet got wet and I got through 3 pairs of socks and the mud was so deep that it took part of my walking stick and kept it. We believe in moving on. The pilgrim life is the message I have for you this morning. Freeing the mind is a lifelong path. You will never be done even on your last day. And the liberal church is made up of those who commit to it no matter what. Like Chaucer's famous pilgrims, we'll tell tales, we'll cheer each other on, we'll warn each other of the rocks over here and the mud over there. Like the Plymouth pilgrims, we face unknown trials and dangers for the sake of something we believe in. Like the Magi going to Bethlehem, all they have is a star, and that's all we have. And like the children of Israel, we have no idea how long it's going to take or what the route is. Like pilgrims going to Mecca, it's our sacred duty. We cannot abandon it. Like the Hindus, we see in all of our journeys the hope of encountering the divine in every rock and stream. And like John Muir and every pioneer, we crave communion with the world as it is, unrefracted, unblended, and uninterpreted by humanity. It's a good life. It's a hard life. And I warn you, don't start unless you continue forever. And then when you do, even when your socks are wet and the wind is driving and the cold gets in you where you can't get it out, even then do it with joy. Afoot and lighthearted, take to the open road. Because who knows what's ahead? I can't wait to find out. Amen and amen. It's time to sing. Is it 293? Is that the one? Thank you. Our star of truth down shining. It's a good anthem for today.